The true nature of our very being is to be in harmony. Greetings, everyone. Welcome to the Center for Spiritual Living, Boulder Valley Mystic Moments. It's a time on Wednesdays for you to come and just be reminded how truly magnificent you are. I'm Reverend Jody Stevenson here at the Center for Spiritual Living, Boulder Valley, and our tagline kind of sums it all up. Love lives here. You know, Valentine's is a very special holiday. It's when Cupid shoots his arrow, and candy and flowers and loving thoughts and reminding of love is everywhere present. The only challenge with that is love is everywhere present all the time, not just on Valentine's Day. It's kind of like Earth Day. Shouldn't Earth be celebrated every day? Love needs to be celebrated every day. But Valentine's is actually a very ancient holiday. And the holiday of candy, flowers, and loving thoughts was started in a really dark way. I won't go into all of it. I'll just kind of give you a little bit of history. It came out of ancient Rome. So Noel Linsky, who is a religious professor at Yale University, says, this is how he describes the beginning of Valentine's. The men were drunk and nude. They sacrificed a goat and a dog, and then they whipped the women with the hides of the animals that they had just slain. Isn't that cheerful? Because they all believed that if the men did this and the women were whipped, they would become more fertile. So here's the truth. You and I have come a long way, baby. Yes, the world could be unloving. It can be harsh. It can be depressing. And yes, life can be tough. But love continues to prevail. And it is a constant in our everyday lives, whether we work it or not. That's the good news. Dr. Ernest Holmes, who is the founder of our philosophy, the Science of Mind philosophy, writes, and of all the definitions and all the quotes on love, I love his the most. He writes, love is the self-givingness of the spirit through the desire of love to express itself in terms of creation. So love is creative. Love is creation. Love is the central flame of the universe, nay, the very fire of itself. Rumi once wrote, I love this is so easy to remember. It is such a good reminder. Love is a fire, and I am the wood. Pierre Desjardins once wrote, someday, after we have mastered the winds, the waves, the tides, and gravity, we shall harness the energies of love. Then, for the second time in the history of the world, we will have discovered fire. Love. It's so simple, and it's so ever-present, and it's so constant in our lives that it is actually elusive. It really is not confusing, and yet it is so misunderstood. So, love actually begins with our hearts. Science now tells us that the heart chakra is the place through which we express and experience our love. It's a place for forgiveness. It's a place where love begins. It's a place where love ends. Then the energy of love goes up to our brains, and we think either loving thoughts or unloving thoughts. It's that simple. And who cares if we think unloving thoughts or loving thoughts? I mean, most people can't hear our thoughts, except that we create our reality from our thinking. Our thoughts determine the quality of our lives. So thoughts. Number one, we think about 70,000 thoughts in a given day. Number two, science tells us that around 80% of those thoughts are negative and unloving. We have work to do. Science also tells us that 80% of those 80 unloving thoughts, judgmental thoughts, are the same ones we had yesterday. Thoughts, you and I are at choice with the thoughts that we think. I was sitting at Starbucks the other day with my computer and my green latte, iced green latte. And the table next to me, there were two women, and they were being so unloving about somebody in their life, rolling their eyes and going, oh my God, on and on. And I literally had to move. I thought, well, should I go up and tell them that the words they're using and the thoughts they're thinking are really affecting their lives? And I thought, Jody, not yours to do. So I actually had to move. As a hypnotherapist and certified timeline counselor for over 30 years now, I have witnessed hundreds of people change their thinking and transform their lives, including my own. One of my most basic questions to my clients and to my students have been, are you loving the life you are living? Are you loving the life you are living? And most people, they kind of look at me and they go, well, that's an odd question. Am I loving the life I am living? And some people start crying. The answer is no. Most people don't realize that they literally are creating their lives through their negative thinking or their positive thinking, their loving thoughts or their unloving thoughts. Dr. Ernest Holmes writes over and over and over again, there is a divine presence within me that is everlasting love. I wanted to read to you out of the Science of Mind book. And if you don't have this book, I so recommend it. It's part of my daily spiritual practice. He writes on page 38, the divine presence within me is everlasting love. The action of love is expressed in my world. God's wisdom holds me steady and the peace of God fills me. I am its creation. Understood, wanted, and cared for. From this infinite source, I give and receive love in my world. If petty emotions seem to trouble me, I immediately turn to the source within me of strength and peace. God in me does the loving, and I have no fear. So, love expressing itself through each of us begins with the one in the mirror. And I am not talking theory on this one. I know what it's like to transform unloving thoughts about self into loving thoughts. As many of you know, I am a really big advocate of having a daily spiritual practice. Taking time every day out of the 1,440 minutes that we have and feeding our spiritual body. And I think one of the things that has surprised me the most is I hear people say all the time, I don't have time to stop and do a daily spiritual practice. And my response is that you don't have time not to. My daily spiritual practice is non-negotiable. So I wanted to share with you and recommend that if you don't have a daily spiritual practice, that you create one. 2 minutes a day. That's all I'm recommending. Although I will tell you, you will come back to me and say, Jody, I can't do it for 2 minutes a day. I have to do it for at least 5 or 15 or 60 minutes a day because it is so delicious to the soul. So the first thing I do in my daily spiritual practice is I wanted to show you, this is my little journal that I write down the most powerful act of loving kindness that you and I could ever do, and to write down 3 or 4 gratitudes a day. So I wrote this very early this morning. As many of you know, I love to get up in the morning. These are my gratitudes for the day. I am so grateful for Ernest Holmes and the Science of Mind philosophy. It literally saved my life. Number 2, I am so grateful for the Center for Spiritual Living Boulder Valley community. Number 3, I am so grateful for all the four-leggeds in the world, especially Lucy. Number 4, I am so grateful for every and all flowers on the planet. I'm starting to learn how to draw and paint flowers. Could be one of the hardest things I do. But when I come from love, and it's okay if I make all the mistakes that I'm making, and sometimes my flowers looked pretty drooped, but I'm learning how to do that. I love flowers. Love. Where do you find love in your life? Where do you find love in your life? After I do my gratitude journal, then I read out of 365, Science of Mind, which I highly recommend. I also recommend I read this, the book of Awakening by Mark Nepo. Highly recommend it. And then, as many of you know, I am a student of Taoism, so I read 365 Tao. And then after that, at the end of my daily spiritual practice, I look at my vision book. I'm actually redoing it, so it's in pieces right now, or I would show you my book. It doesn't take long, friend, to embrace, deepen, and expand love in your life. The truth is, there can be no absence of love. It is the very source of our being. And it's up to us as how we use this precious, precious energy flowing through us. So thank you so much for joining me and all of us here at the Center for Spiritual Living Boulder Valley. Please come and visit us every week, Mystic Moments. There's a donate button. If you'd like to do that, please do so. And know that we are here for you, for prayer, for support, for remembering who you are, because love lives here. Have a great week, everybody. Go out and love and know that I love you.